Okay, so I'm in a 96 Max, right? It's about to click over to 260, right? It's Columbus Day, October 2020. Bought this car $500 February 2020 in Long Island, New York. I'm in Queens. See how the brush across the door and the fender. Um, Bought it with like 250 and change on it. Car was originally from South Carolina for a long time. The previous owner had relayed to me that he bought the car for his daughter for a good price. It had low miles on it at the time. And it's only been here the last 5 years, so 2015. And there's some dealer receipts that can correspond with that. It's been South Carolina most of its life. GLE, sunroof, leather, no heated seats, no fog lights, no spoiler. But nonetheless, Bose speakers. I switched out the head unit because it died on me. The volume turned off and on at weird times, and I was only able to turn the system on, but it just wouldn't add the volume. So chalked it up for what it was. I already had an adapter in another car that came with the car, and I already had this head unit that has its own remote and own equalizer setting, so that way you can adjust the bass, mids, and highs. I already had like 3 or 4 manual Maximas and a manual 6-speed manual G37 sedan.
I am not stanced, I'm just appreciative.
So, back in the auto for now. When I first got this car, had check engine light. The previous owner didn't want to spend money being quoted by his reputable mechanic about $300 or $400 just to pass inspection. He's a Chevy guy. He had a lot of cars at his house. His daughter was driving it. It already had gotten into a light accident, which was just the door, fender, and busted axle, which would click or knock on low speed turns. Turn right, turn left, knock, 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 like that. So the mechanic told him that it was like purge valve, EGR, emissions related things that, you're going to have to replace sensors or do a whole lot of cleaning to see if you had to replace sensors or both. So he didn't want to throw that money at it. Had his son listed it online for $1,000, and I offered $500 because of the issues that I had. The damaged panels, and because there was a long crack going all the way across the windshield, all the way to that side. So, it worked in my favor. They didn't want it, need it anymore. And, I was kind of glad to take it off their hands because at that time I had a GXE tan interior. I was looking for a black interior swap. Okay, 124. Tan, clean. But when I drove this car, I said I can't tear this thing up just to put this whole interior, including the dashboard and the steering wheel, into a car that, you know, it wasn't worth it at the time. It wasn't worth it. And that car too, that car was $500, $600 or whatever. Bought it from Long Island as well previously. So this one has a different wiring that goes through your take off the door, take off the fender. It's like a different kind of wiring harness that goes to your speakers. It's like a twin harness. And the GXE had a single harness because it's non-Bose. So it wasn't going to work anyway. It wouldn't make sense, you know, to take out a double harness and speakers and the speaker surround, because it's a different speaker surround for Bose, and then get the amplifier and all kinds of stuff just to sit there and say, I got Bose in my GXE, when you got a GLE that got factory wood grain trim and it's black already. And that's what I was looking for, just black interior. So nonetheless, I just swapped over what I could and did what I could to clear those check engine light. What happened was I drove the car back from Suffolk County to Queens with my plates on it, and the car was fine. Radio's playing, the air is good, AC works, heat works. And what I did not know was that, when I should have looked under the hood, is there coolant in it. That reservoir was dry, bone dry when I got it back. It was sipping the fuel. It was sipping it, but you can tell something was wrong. So it needed emissions work done to it. Also, when I got it back to the house, I just turned it off, turned it on. Battery, brake light. So now the alternator was gone, shot, because of the oil that runs down the front of the valve cover, drips down and gets into your alternator and just destroys it. So I'm just glad I made it home without needing a tow truck. So needless to say, I needed to swap parts off of the green car, but I was still driving it at the time. I was going to work on this, but still drive the green car. And what happened was, I had that green Maxima since last October. So it lasted me all winter. Mostly. But I didn't even get to change a valve cover gasket on this car. And lo and behold, the water pump pissing out coolant on the other one, and it was overheating. So needless to say, that made the decision easier, which one to keep, which one to take parts off of and part it out for whatever money I could recoup. And that just made it easier for me to just start wrenching, because you know you want to wrench on stuff, you know you gotta have it. It just made it easier. I was going to keep both cars at one point in time and try to practice, if you will, learning timing, engine timing, and installing my own OE water pump. But with the money being scarce and taking up a spot in the driveway for no apparent reason, and there's other parts cars out there that you can buy and have two cars, I just didn't see it as a good idea. Yes, it had automatic start. Yes, that comes in handy when you just want to warm up the car and you're far away from it, and you just, you know, got the heat or the AC on. But man, that thing was starting up very harsh. Like it would start up and die. Start up and die. And with that green car, what I did not know at the time, and this is before I got this one, is that the voltage reading for that alternator or for the battery was reading under 14 amps. It was reading like 8 point something. That's why it was always shutting off. So when that idle air control valve went bad, it was like always stuck on high idle, high rev, all the way up to like 2500 RPM when you just start the car. That's what was keeping it alive. So the battery was not so much as bad. It was the alternator that was charging low. And then when me and my boy got it to run right and get the idle down there where it should be, about 500, 600 and just stay there. You know, if it climbs, it's bad. Idle air control valve. And it could burn out the chip in your computer, the ECU that's behind there, up under there. So, needless to say, I was going through a lot with the other car about drive cycle, trying to get it to pass inspection legitly, change the computer and the idle air control valve together, because I took the idle air control valve from this car because I knew it was good, and that's the only reason why it worked, is the idle air control valve and the computer, the ECM, together have to be changed for it to idle properly and not start climbing again. If it starts climbing again, you need a computer and the idle air control valve. If it's not too late, maybe you just get away with just the idle air control valve. But anyways, just a little update on the Max. Stay tuned for more Maxima content, 4th gen related, old photos, archives, Maxima memorabilia over the years from like 2008, 2009 and above.